Hey, Pete here. Just going to pace around the house and talk about something. So, 4 years ago, had a major life event, a major separation, and didn't know it then, but was heading towards divorce. And so I recognized that things in my life were not working out or going to plan. And essentially, I did not know why. I didn't understand what had happened, because like in my mind, like I love this person. I couldn't imagine loving anyone more than her, but it still fell apart. So I set about trying to figure out, you know, initially what was wrong with me. And I just kind of blamed myself for everything. I just thought it was all my problem. And I kind of went in and out of that, like you have like periods of realization where it's like, well, they did this and well, I did this, and kind of just looking at everything. And so you kind of fluctuate as you're going through the 5 stages of grief. If anyone is aware of that, you can look it up. But so like you kind of vacillate or oscillate into these different stages of grief. But anyways, by the end of that first year, roughly, so 3 years ago, I was starting to basically just kind of realize it's like the only thing I can change is what I can change. Like I can myself. And so I set about really figuring out what was going on in my life, like why, relationships were breaking down, and really just trying to take responsibility for my part in that and what I can do. Because like I mean, you can't control what others do, and so you won't find me on this page like I I mean maybe I can have a weak day like anybody, but I tend to not blame others. It's like what I can do is change Pete. That's all I can change, and I can do my best, and I can figure out how to learn how to move forward. So one of the first things that I encountered was I read a book, and I put the picture of it in a link. Or I didn't put a link, but I put a picture. I should probably add a link to that. Peter Walker, CPTSD from Surviving to Thriving. And I read that book. It was around 3 years ago, and I read it cover to cover 5 or 6 times, just because it like made me understand myself and my childhood and my past, and like just a lot of things. It wasn't all relevant. No book is going to be 100% relevant, but for me it was very impactful. And one of the first things that I realized or saw in it was that I had a very critical inner voice, or so I tended to talk really negatively about myself in my own head. And so that was like the first, sorry about the echo in here. I pace, can't help it. Hyperactive or whatever it is. That was like one of the first realizations was, how do I overcome this hyperactive or overactive inner critic is what it really is. It's an inner voice where you just say negative things about yourself, really. And I never knew why I did it. I know now, and so I'm going to kind of real briefly, if I can, before this video gets too long. go into possibly how those things start and just give like a real quick way to start to break that cycle. So you have this inner critic, this inner voice, and there's an inner critic and there's an outer critic. The outer critic is where you can criticize other people. And someone who has an overactive inner critic, during certain times, they may attack themselves internally and even to other people, like talking bad about themselves. But then also certain things happen and they can be overly critical outwardly. And the person doesn't even know they're doing this. I can tell you because I used to be that guy, and I'm sure I can still do it. Like it's not that you completely heal and fix. Like you're constantly working on yourself and trying to get better. But anyway, so one of the first things I recall doing was focusing on gratitude. So like being thankful for remedial things, being thankful for your job. And basically you just memorize a few things. And when you start feeling like crud, for whatever reason, it can be things in your life that just aren't going well and you're feeling rotten, you start rehearsing thoughts of gratitude, and you can say them out loud. And I recall when I was first doing this, I might say something like, thank you for my work, thank you for my job, or whatever it is, especially something that you're maybe not super excited about. I'm going to insert that. Something that maybe you're struggling with, which just sounds so counterintuitive, but it really does work. Maybe something that you're not super excited about or crazy about, but has a negative thought to it. So whatever that might be. So like, someone's taking you to court or whatever it is, and you just start thanking your creator, start thanking God about this situation, because it's going to make you stronger, and he has control of it anyway. Sounds counterintuitive, but it works extremely well. You might have to do that when you're first starting. I recall doing that hundreds of times a day. So that's the first thing, is a kind of a spirit of gratitude. Some people were really good at that. Their parents, whatever reason, situations in life, and I'm not blaming parents for anything, but for whatever reason, they're good at doing that. And so then the next thing, and I'm just going to stick to 2 things on this video, and I'm going to try to keep it under 10 minutes. The next thing is starting to silence this inner voice, this negative inner voice. And the easiest way to do that, I think, that I found, is like these thoughts come in your head, and you got to catch it. So like I try not to even let a thought come in my head like that's negative about myself. And this does not mean not taking responsibility for your mistakes. It's not the same. In fact, if you can take responsibility for areas where, say, maybe you hurt someone or something like that, like you're telling yourself the truth, okay? So like if you made a mistake and you were too harsh with your kids or your spouse or whatever it was, it's like you have to take ownership of that, because you're recognizing that, okay, that was not the right thing to do. You're basically telling yourself the truth. And if you can tell yourself the truth, then you can also tell yourself the truth about your worth, okay? So it's important to the best of your ability, and everybody is going to make mistakes here. Tell yourself the truth about yourself, about your situation, whether you made a mistake, own the mistake. It's like, but that does not dictate your value as a person. So that's basically it. Those two things. It's stopping the inner critic and gratitude, essentially. And those were the springboard for starting to change and starting getting footing of starting to have some hope, I guess. So anyway, love you guys. Bye.